I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, August the 20th, brought to you in part by Performance Livestock Analytics. Create professional and accurate invoices, break-evens, and closeouts, and you can give access to those that are the most important in your operation to help make decisions, like your nutritionist, your veterinarian, and your lender. For more information, go to performancelivestockanalytics.com. A buyer's frenzy, and talking about these calf and yearling buyers out there in the auctions, they are just going at it now. The offerings aren't great. I mean, there's some pretty impressive yearlings out there, and we're getting some early balling calves in there, but the quality's better. But these guys are going after them, aggressively bidding on these cattle, and they're mixing and matching. They're trying to put them together. They're blending and sending, if you will. You know, if I had a sale barn, I would sell the bunches first and then sell the individuals. I tell you what, one of my favorite order buyers from way back used to always tell me, "Why would you sell the odd cattle first and then sell the bunches? How am I supposed to fill in on my weight if I don't have any individuals or small groups to do that with?" So they should absolutely do that. Sell those small and individual bunches later so those guys can fill their loads and square them up after they get started. But they're bidding readily on the smaller bunches, on the individuals. They've got get 'em orders, which, you know, and that's the way the buyers are, and they can't tell them what they're going to cost. When one of their customers calls and said, you know, "What can you buy me a load of 6-weight steer calves for?" They don't know. They couldn't tell them within $20 a hundred what they're going to cost. "I don't know what they're going to cost." He says, "Get them anyway." And so you got a lot of these buyers that are just cranking, I mean, you know, on these cattle. This corn ain't going to be worth nothing. It's a bumper crop. You've seen a little bit coming off of that since we've seen that crop report, and then you're starting to see some people in Indiana and Ohio say, "Oh, it's kind of dry here." When it's kind of dry, it sometimes promotes a bigger crop. We've seen some crop tours out there that said, "Well, you get out in it and it's going to be huge." You're also seeing guys saying, "Well, I might have 300 bushel to the acre." It's just going to be a giant crop out there, guys, and it's not going to be worth much. We're seeing your basis in the corn belt is like your tiny futures price, you know, 20 or 30 basis back of that. We can put these pounds on cheap, and the pounds are worth so much more. The more of them you put on, the better off you are, and you can cheapen cattle up by making them big, and that's what they're doing, and that's what the industry wants, is the big cattle. So keep putting the weight on, and you can finally feed them into a profit, even if you give some of these huge prices for them. We've got a cattle on feed report coming out on Friday. We have seen the analysts' estimates there, and for August 1st cattle on feed inventory, they've got them lined up to be 98.1. That's the average of the analysts' guess. Placements in July all the way down to 91.2, and marketings in July set at 94.1. Of course, we know that the slaughter's been slashed. I think that's a pretty aggressive cattle on feed report, but if it turns out to be bullish, look out. You know, it's going to be really bullish, and these prices are going to continue to roll. They're showing no signs of weakening at all this week, especially. It's just been gangbusters out here. And you look at your futures for Tuesday. You know, we might have seen some weakness on live cattle nearby, but out front, way out front, they got higher, and the same on the feeder cattle. And that's instrumental whenever you're seeing your way back months higher in the trends than you do up front. They think this thing's going to keep getting better all the time. But August live cattle futures down 40 cents at 236.32. October was up 17 cents at 231.35. Look at that. August is the month that sucks for fed cattle, and we're in it, and it's not sucking, and the futures are at 236.32, a pretty far cry, about $6 back from what your cash market is. And then October trading all the way down to 231.35. That looks like a buying opportunity on that August contract of live cattle, trading that far back of the August contract, which is that far back of the cash. And October is typically not a bad month for live cattle, but your back months were down just 2 cents to up as much as $1.30. Feeder cattle weren't lower. August feeder cattle up 165 at 350.55, pretty much in line with your real-time index, but way out in front of your CME cash feeder cattle index. September feeder cattle up $1.50 at 352.42. That's higher than the August, so the fall run doesn't scare September feeder cattle contracts. Your back months were up 205 to up 280. December corn, that's new crop, down 3 1/4 cents a bushel at 403 1/4. November new crop beans down 7 1/2 cents a bushel at 1033 3/4. And your hard red winter wheat for September down 6 3/4 cents at 499 1/2. They just keep drifting lower, guys. Your fed cattle market, we didn't see much take place at all. It's early in the week, of course, but on Tuesday we did see a little bit of trade, about 50 head, and it was in Iowa, and they were mixed steers and heifers. That's never a good idea there, and so they're going to trade off the market, but off the market is within the range of last week, 240 to 241. No trading at all out of Nebraska, Kansas, or Texas, and if Colorado does trading, we don't get to see it because of confidentiality rules. But on Tuesday, we have the Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota, to give us an idea of what the fed cattle market is in a competitive bidding market there, where you have price discovery, market transparency, all the things that we love here at the Feeder Flash. They had 1,200 in overnight, 2,000 in for the fed cattle auction in Yankton, South Dakota. The market on fed cattle was steady to $3 higher. Conventional cattle selling from 243 1/2 up to 252. Drug-free, not well tested. They only had 57 head of drug-free cattle, and all of them went back to the country to put on more feed, including some 1,230 pound steers that a guy brought in, and another farmer bought them to put some more weight on them at 260. Non-implanted fed cattle there, which would be program cattle at Yankton, selling from 246 up to 255. We haven't been seeing prices like that all the way up to 255. My friend Gary Marks that shares this information with us, because the market is not reported by any kind of federal or state government entity, but Gary Marks does a good job. He knows what's going on and shares that information with me so I can share it with you. He said that heiferettes, feeding cows, and big fed cows were all selling really well there, from $1.90 to $245 1/2 in Yankton, South Dakota. Box beef cutout values were higher again on Tuesday afternoon. Choice cuts 407.20 up 296. Selects up 262 at 379.76. Your slaughter through the first 2 days of the week continues disappointing, just 216,000 estimated cattle slaughter. It's 1,000 less than this point last week. Already 24,000 less than the same week a year ago up to this point. Talk about what else is going on. Guys might want to look at Charolais if you're looking at making a genetic change, guys, in your herd. Provide the ability to outperform at weaning for more dollars per head, no matter what the market is. And we're still selling them by the pound, guys. Go to poundsmatter.com for more information on Charolais genetics. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood there in Carthage, Missouri, right on I-44 across the highway from Joplin Regional Stockyards. Your real-time index, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer, at the end of Tuesday's auctions, sitting at 351 smooth for an 800-pound steer on the average. And the average weight was all the way up to 809 pounds. It's the average from 7 to 899, but there have been more heavier cattle in there, so the average weight is 809 pounds, sitting at 351. That was up another $1.57, but your steer tracker, which is the last 25 sales of index cattle there of over 5 head, it was up to 352.47 late Tuesday, so it's drifting higher some more. Cash feeder cattle index from CME running way behind at 344.98. You might want to check out Nevada Livestock Marketing, my buddy Jack Payne out there. He's not having a special on Friday, but he has a regular cattle auction every Wednesday. Features feeder cattle, and he's going to have about 1,000 head of feeder cattle, and it's kind of early in the year for him to be seeing that, but you can't blame people for wanting to get the market. So he's got some nice offerings there. Check them out on DVAuction.com. Big sales on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard, not really a big sale through the ring. They only had 1,200 head, which would be really light for them, but the heat index levels are extremely high. It is hot, it's sticky, just like it was in Joplin. That's just east of there, and man, it's just hard to move cattle. And I remember my friend Dave Smith, that was my star state reporter for Missouri Department of Agriculture, and then I supervised him, but I learned a hell of a lot more from him than I taught him. But this time of the year, he would say cattle movement was mostly towards the shade. But Ozarks Regional Stockyard sold the cattle through the ring mostly steady with active bidding, like I was talking about earlier in the report. Guys readily bidding on all classes there. Market was stayed just as tippy high as it was last week. But they did have 850 head on their online in-house video auction, and they do that with help from DVAuction there. And they had a one stick out sale that I got to give you. It was 8 loads, 450 head from Michael Gardner, and he's from down at Batesville, Arkansas, home of legendary NASCAR racer Mark Martin, back when that stuff was cool and real, guys. Michael Gardner had 450 steers, and they were, I'd call them #1 Okies. They were 3-colored cattle, a lot of blacks on them, not much, if at all, any ear on them. Locally purchased cattle, put together cattle, but he had them for a long time. 450 head of them to weigh 900 pounds. The end of this week or early next week's when they're going to go. And those cattle at 900 pounds, 8 loads of them bring $333.75 in Arkansas, guys, at Ozarks Regional Stockyard video sale. Talk about some other big sales. How about a sale in Alabama? Jimmy Seeley's sale there. That is Alabama Livestock in Uniontown, Alabama. Had some board loads to sell there on Tuesday. He had the Lauren Diller Cattle and Brandon Jones partnership deal there. They sell 2 loads of 675-pound steers out on the grass. They were mostly black, not going to deliver until November the 1st at $675. They bring $385. Alabama livestock auction there, and they're on DVAuction.com also. Let's talk about some in-house sales, or brick and mortar sales, I guess you should say. Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma had well over 5,000 cattle time they got all done. They were still selling cows late Tuesday night and did not have the trend there, but of course the trend that I saw in the automated market report was sharply higher, especially on the calves. And I told you just on our last report that most of the calves they were going to sell were going to be all unweaned. They only had 10% weaned calves there, and the market on the calves was sharply higher. Of course, yearlings still selling higher too, but everything's selling really well. They were your Superior Steel sales, home of Superior Standard cattle equipment. Stick out sale of the day. You look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central and go through here with me and look at the best tested weights. You're going to be impressed. They had 294 head of 4-weight steer calves in Beaver, Oklahoma. They averaged 448 at 486.02. 625 head of the 5-weight steers averaged 551 at 438.38. There were 313 head of 7-weight steers. They averaged 743 at 367.28. And 354 head of 8-weight steers in Beaver averaged 859 at 342.42. And 685 head of 9-weight feeder steers in Beaver, Oklahoma had an average weight of 954 pounds, an average weighted average price on those of $330.91. Look at some heifers, not quite as well tested. 267 head of the 4-weight heifers averaged 469 at 414.84. 379 head of the 5-weight heifers averaged 556 at 382.28. And 441 head of the 7-weight feeder heifers, and that's in Beaver Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, averaged 760. There have been some replacements in there at an average price of $344.23. And the stick out sale I'm going to give you from Beaver, Oklahoma was on replacement heifers. I told you about those black white face heifers they were going to have in there. And one particular group of them, 41 head, weighed 788 pounds for replacement at 381. Big time quote there, guys. How about Unionville Livestock Market in Unionville, Missouri? Kurt and Heather Spore Leader there. They had a good sale, one of their specials, not one of their big specials, not a customer appreciation special, but it was Unionville sale there with Rockin' R cattle. They had 250 head of them, or 4 loads, weighed 866 pounds at 355.20 on the average of those 4 loads. I thought that was pretty impressive. But maybe the most impressive quote was from the Foster cattle there. They had 72 head, 649 pound steers, bring 428.25. And you guys need to be tuning in today here on Wednesday for Creston Livestock Auction. They're going to have an anniversary barbecue sale there, and there'll be some impressive quotes. They've got lots of long strings there. Be sure and check them out on DVAuction.com here today on Wednesday. Some other impressive quotes. How about Flint Hills Stockyards in St. Mary's, Kansas? They sold 126 steers, weighed 907 at 348.50. Some other quotes out west. How about Turlock Livestock Auction Yard, way out in California? 96 head, 510 pound steers at 480. And closer to home, OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, had 52 head of Pee-wee steers, but 52 head, weighed 327, brought 560 a pound, guys. Oh my gosh. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Miles City Livestock Commission Company, Miles City, Montana. 52 head of steers weighed 734 and bring 394. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.